The screams echoed through the spire like a chorus of the damned. In the grand hall, nobles who had spent their lives in luxury now twisted and changed. Their skin bubbled. Their bones cracked and reformed. The corruption they had absorbed through decades of rejuvenate treatments was finally being activated. Some became monsters. Some became doorways, their bodies tearing open to reveal glimpses of the warp beyond. Some simply exploded into clouds of blood and light that floated upward toward the ceiling where a crack in reality was slowly forming. Isadora ran through the chaos, dragging Geraint behind her. She found Inquisitor Mordecai standing over the bodies of the 20 guards. He was wounded in several places, but still standing. "The ritual has begun," she said. "We need to stop it." Mordecai nodded grimly. "I know. I can feel the warp tearing open. We have minutes at most before the rift becomes permanent. Where is the source? Where is Geraint controlling it from?" Geraint laughed from the floor where she had thrown him. "You cannot stop it. The altar is in the deepest chamber below the Forbidden Gallery. Even if you reach it, you do not know how to reverse the process. And I will never tell you." Mordecai put his bolt pistol against Geraint's head. "You will tell us, or I will make your death last for hours. Kill me. My soul already belongs to the dark gods. Death is simply the next step in my journey." Isadora looked at her brother's servitor body, standing motionless beside her. An idea formed in her mind. A terrible, impossible idea. "His consciousness is still in there," she said slowly. "Some fragment of Caius remains. He was a tech priest before he disappeared. He understood machines better than anyone in the spire." Mordecai understood immediately. "You want to use his remaining awareness to interface with the ritual machinery. He can find a way to stop it. Or at least disrupt it. The process will destroy whatever remains of his mind. He will be truly dead." Isadora felt tears on her cheeks, but her voice was steady. "He would want this. He tried to stop them 10 years ago. Let him finish what he started." They left Geraint behind, bound with chains from the dead guards. The Underhive gangs would find him soon enough. His fate would be their justice. The deepest chamber was exactly where Geraint had said. Below the Forbidden Gallery, past the room of tubes, through doors that required blood sacrifices to open, the altar was a massive machine of black metal and pulsing organic material. It looked like something alive, breathing in the darkness. Symbols covered every surface, each one hurting to look at. At its center, a column of purple light rose toward the ceiling, feeding the rift above. Bodies surrounded the altar. Nobles who had been brought here before the feast, sacrificed to begin the ritual. Their souls were gone, torn from their bodies to fuel the opening of the warp. "Can your brother's servitor interface with this?" Mordecai asked. "I do not know. But we have no other choice." Isadora connected her auspex to the servitor's neural interface once more. She activated the consciousness restoration, pushing it further than before. She was burning out his remaining brain cells, forcing his awareness to surface one final time. Servitor 7734 shuddered. Its eyes flickered wildly. When it spoke, the voice was broken but unmistakably human. "Isadora. I can see it, the machine, it is beautiful and terrible. Caius, can you stop it?" "Yes, the control systems, they are designed to be irreversible, but nothing is truly irreversible. I just need to overload the power conduits, redirect the warp energy back into itself, do it. If I do, the backlash will destroy the machine, and me, and possibly everything within 100 meters." Isadora looked at Mordecai. The Inquisitor was already moving toward the exit. "We need to leave," he said. "Let him do what needs to be done." "No." Isadora stood firm. "I will not leave him to die alone again. Sister." Caius's voice was fading, but there was warmth in it. "I died 10 years ago, what remains is just echoes. Let me use those echoes, for something good. Go, live, remember me, before she could respond, Mordecai grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the door. Behind them, the servitor walked toward the altar. Its mechanical hands touched the controls. Light began to build around the machine. They ran. The explosion caught them halfway up the stairs. It threw them forward, tumbling through dust and debris. The entire spire shook. Stone cracked. Metal screamed. When Isadora looked back, the chamber was gone. Collapsed into itself. The purple light had vanished. The rift above the grand hall was closing, shrinking, disappearing. The ritual had failed. The days that followed were filled with fire and judgment. The Inquisition arrived in force. Every noble house was investigated. The corruption was exposed to the entire Imperium. House Helmar was declared traitors. Their members were executed publicly. Their holdings were seized. Their name was erased from history. The other noble houses fared little better. Though they had not known about the corruption, they had still participated. They had still used the rejuvenat treatments. They had still built their luxury on the suffering of millions. The spire burned. Not from enemy action, but from the Inquisition's purge. Everything touched by chaos had to be destroyed. Isadora stood on a landing platform, watching her childhood home collapse into flames. She wore simple clothes now. Her jewels were gone. Her servants were gone. Her family name meant nothing. Inquisitor Mordecai stood beside her. "You have a choice," he said. "You can be judged with your house. Your punishment would be exile, perhaps servitude. Or. He handed her a small metal object. A rosette bearing the symbol of the Inquisition. "You have seen the corruption that hides behind wealth and power. You have lost everything because of it. Join us. Spend your life hunting the darkness that destroyed your family." Isadora took the rosette. It was cold in her hand. She thought of her brother, dying twice to protect the truth. She thought of the millions in the tubes, drained to keep nobles young. She thought of the 10,000 souls that almost became food for dark gods. She thought of 1,000 other spires across the galaxy, where the elite lived in luxury while hiding the same secrets. "Yes," she said. "I will join you." She turned her back on the burning spire and walked into her new life. Behind her, the dark reality of the rich crumbled into ash, but across the stars, in hive cities and palace worlds and pleasure planets, other secrets waited to be found. The war against corruption would never end, and Isadora Catalyst, once a noble, now an Inquisitor's acolyte, would fight it until her dying breath. The spire shook as explosions ripped through its lower levels. The guard stumbled. Lord Geraint grabbed a wall to stay standing. Only Inquisitor Mordecai remained perfectly balanced, his smile growing wider. "What have you done?" Geraint demanded. "I have done nothing," Mordecai replied calmly. "The Underhive is doing this themselves. I simply gave them a reason to unite." For 3,000 years, the gangs of Necromunda's Underhive had fought each other. House Goliath against House Escher. House Van Saar against House Orlok. Endless war kept them weak and divided. This was by design. The noble houses encouraged the fighting to prevent the billions below from ever looking upward, but Mordecai had spent months in the Underhive before tonight. He had shown the gang leaders proof of what the nobles did with their captured people. He had shown them the tubes filled with their brothers and sisters. He had given them a common enemy. For the first time in history, the gangs had united, and now they were climbing the spire. Geraint's face twisted with rage. He drew his plasma pistol and aimed at Mordecai. "I will kill you myself." The Inquisitor moved faster than any normal human could. He drew his own weapon and fired. The bolt round hit Geraint's arm, sending the plasma pistol spinning away. Geraint screamed and fell to his knees. "Take them both," Mordecai ordered Isadora. "Find somewhere safe. I will hold these guards." "There are 20 of them," Isadora protested. "I have killed more than 20 before breakfast." The Inquisitor pulled a second weapon from his coat. "Go. Find your brother. You may be able to restore some of his consciousness temporarily." He knows secrets that even I have not discovered yet. Isadora grabbed Geraint by his wounded arm and dragged him through a side passage. Behind her, she heard the sounds of combat. Bolt rounds. Screams. The wet noise of bodies falling. She did not look back, the spire was in chaos now. Alarms screamed from every direction. Nobles ran through corridors in blind panic, their expensive clothes torn, their jewels forgotten. They had never faced real danger in their lives. They did not know what to do. Isadora found Servitor Unit 7734 standing motionless in a hallway. Its programming had no instructions for emergencies. It simply waited for orders that would never come. Caius, she whispered, touching its cold metal face. I know you are in there somewhere. The servitor's dead eyes stared at nothing. Isadora pulled out her auspex and connected it to the servitor's neural interface. She was not a tech priest. She did not truly understand the technology she was using. But she had watched the Mechanicum work on servitors many times. She knew the basic principles. Override command. Temporary consciousness restoration. Authorization Catalyst 773. The servitor twitched. Its mouth opened and closed. Strange sounds came from its throat, like a man trying to speak after years of silence. Dora, tears streamed down her face. Yes. Yes, Caius, it is me. I am here. The servitor's eyes flickered. For a brief moment, they were no longer dead glass. They were the eyes of her brother, filled with pain and horror. They did this to me. His voice was broken, barely more than a whisper. Because I found the truth. What truth? Tell me quickly. I do not know how long this will last. Caius struggled to form words. His servitor programming fought against his returning consciousness. Every second was agony. The corruption is not accidental. He grabbed her arm with mechanical strength. House Helmar designed it 3,000 years ago. Slow poison, in the Rejuvenat, every noble, infected. I know this already. Mordecai showed me. No. You do not understand. Caius's eyes were fading again, the brief spark of humanity dying. The ritual, tonight. Geraint is not protecting a secret, he is finishing it, all of us, all the nobles, offerings to the dark gods. The feast is the harvest. His grip loosened. His eyes went dead again. Caius. Caius. But he was gone. The servitor stood motionless once more, waiting for orders. Isadora turned to Geraint, who was clutching his wounded arm and watching her with cold eyes. Is it true? She demanded. The feast tonight? All of us gathered in one place. Geraint laughed despite his pain. Your brother was always too clever. Yes, it is true. 3,000 years of preparation. Every noble family in the spire, all corrupted by our treatments, all gathered for the greatest offering in history. The dark gods will receive 10,000 souls tonight. And in return, House Helmar will rule not just Necromunda, but the entire sector. You would sacrifice your own people. They are not my people. They are livestock. We have been fattening them for the slaughter since before your grandmother was born. The spire shook again. The explosions were getting closer. The underhive gangs were fighting their way upward, level by level, but Isadora now understood that the gangs could not stop what was coming. Even if they killed every guard in the spire, the ritual would still happen. Geraint had already begun it. The corruption was already active. The souls of 10,000 nobles were already being prepared for harvest. She needed to find where the ritual was happening, she needed to stop it, and she knew only one person who might still have the answers. She dragged Geraint through the burning corridors, searching for Inquisitor Mordecai. Behind her, in the grand hall where the feast had been held, the first nobles began screaming as their bodies started to change. The harvest had begun. The clock struck midnight. The feast was still ongoing, but many nobles had drunk themselves unconscious. Others had retired to private chambers for activities that daylight would never see. No one noticed Isadora slip away from the celebration. The Forbidden Gallery was located in the deepest part of the spire. No maps showed its location. No servant spoke of it. Every noble child learned one rule about the gallery from birth. Never go there. Never ask about it. Never even think about it. Isadora walked through corridors that grew darker with each step. The golden lights of the upper levels gave way to dim orange glows. The marble floors became rough stone. The air grew cold and smelled of something ancient. She found the entrance hidden behind a tapestry showing the Emperor conquering the galaxy. The door was made of black metal that seemed to absorb light. There was no handle, but when she touched it, the door swung open silently. Inquisitor Mordecai stood inside, waiting for her. His servo-skull floated beside him, its mechanical eye recording everything. "You came," he said. "Good. That shows courage. Or perhaps desperation." "I want the truth," Isadora replied. "About my brother. About everything." Mordecai nodded and began walking deeper into the gallery. "Then follow me. But I warn you. Once you see what is here, you cannot unsee it. Your life will never be the same." Isadora followed. The Forbidden Gallery was larger than she had imagined. Room after room stretched into the darkness. Each one contained objects that should not exist. The first room held Xenos statues. Not captured trophies, but religious objects. Altars where nobles had secretly worshipped alien gods for centuries. The second room contained technology from before the Imperium. Machines that could think for themselves. Weapons that could destroy worlds. All of it forbidden by imperial law. All of it kept hidden by the elite. The third room made Isadora stop breathing. Paintings covered the walls. But these were not normal paintings. They moved. They changed. Faces in the artwork turned to look at her as she walked past. Hands reached out from the canvas as if trying to grab her. Warp-touched art, Mordecai explained. Created by artists who opened their minds to the immaterium. Each painting contains a fragment of chaos itself. The nobles find them beautiful. Chaos. The word hung in the air like poison. Chaos was the greatest enemy of humanity. The dark gods who lived in the warp, waiting to corrupt and destroy all life. Even speaking of chaos was punishable by death, and the nobles of Necromunda collected chaos artwork for entertainment. They went deeper. Mordecai stopped at a hidden door that required 3 different genetic codes to open. "Your brother found this room," the Inquisitor said. "This is why he had to be silenced." The door opened. Inside was a chamber filled with glass tubes. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Each tube contained a human body floating in green liquid. Wires connected to their heads. Machines pumped fluid in and out of their veins. Isadora recognized some of the faces. Hive workers who had been reported dead in industrial accidents. Children from the lower levels who had simply disappeared. People that no one would miss. "This is where your rejuvenate treatments come from," Mordecai said. His voice was heavy with disgust. "These people are kept alive for years, sometimes decades. Their life essence is slowly drained to keep the nobles young and beautiful." Isadora felt her stomach turn. Every bath she had ever taken. Every treatment that had kept her skin smooth. All of it had come from these suffering bodies, but Mordecai was not finished. "Look at the machines," he said. "Look at the symbols." Isadora looked. At first, she saw only technology. Pipes. Wires. Metal frames. Then she saw them. Hidden in the design. Worked into the metal itself. 8-pointed stars. The mark of chaos undivided. "The process that extracts life essence requires warp energy," Mordecai explained. "The machines are not just technology. They are also altars. Every noble who uses rejuvenate treatments is unknowingly absorbing chaos corruption into their bodies." "That is impossible," Isadora whispered. My family would never worship chaos. They do not know, Mordecai replied. Most of them, anyway. They think the treatments are simply advanced science. But one house knows the truth. One house designed this system 3,000 years ago. They have been slowly corrupting the entire noble class of Necromunda, preparing them for a ritual that will offer all their souls to the dark gods. Before Isadora could ask which house, she heard footsteps behind her. Lord Geraint Helmar stood at the door. He was not alone. 20 armed guards filled the corridor behind him. Isadora, Geraint said sadly. I warned you to stay close to me tonight. I was trying to protect you. Protect me, she shouted. You turned my brother into a servitor. Your brother was going to expose everything. He gave us no choice. Geraint shook his head. I am sorry you found this place. I truly am. You were supposed to be one of the survivors. He raised his hand. Seize them both. The Inquisitor and the lady. They know too much to live. The guards moved forward. Isadora looked at Mordecai, expecting him to fight, but the Inquisitor simply smiled. Did you think I came here without a plan? He asked, and far below, in the depths of the underhive, the first explosions began. Lady Isadora Catalyst opened her eyes slowly as golden light filled her chamber. The light was not from any sun. It came from thousands of tiny machines floating in the air, designed to wake her gently each morning. She lay on a bed that floated 3 feet above the marble floor, suspended by ancient technology that no one in the Imperium truly understood anymore. She was 23 years old and had never known hunger. She had never known cold. She had never known fear. She was a noble of Hive Necromunda, born in the great spire that rose above the poisonous clouds covering the planet below. Down there, billions of people lived and died in darkness. Up here, the elite lived like the Emperor himself. Isadora sat up and clapped her hands twice. 6 servants entered the room immediately. They moved without speaking because they could not speak. Their tongues had been removed at birth. This was tradition in House Catalyst. Servants who could not speak could not share secrets. The servants helped her bathe in a pool filled with blue liquid. This was rejuvenate fluid, harvested from the bodies of young people in the underhive far below. It kept her skin smooth and her body young. Her grandmother had used the same treatments and still looked 40 years old despite being 160. This was how the elite cheated death. After her bath, the servants dressed her in a gown made from the finest materials in the galaxy. The fabric came from a world 3,000 light-years away. The gems on her collar were Xenos in origin, smuggled through channels that the Inquisition would never approve. But the Inquisition did not look too closely at the noble houses. The nobles paid their taxes. The nobles provided soldiers for the endless wars. The nobles kept the hive running. In exchange, they were allowed their little sins. Today was the feast of the Emperor's Ascension. Once each year, every noble house in the spire gathered to celebrate and display their wealth. Isadora's family had attended this feast for 3,000 years. Missing it was unthinkable. A chime sounded at her door. She nodded to a servant, who opened it to reveal Lord Geraint Helmar. He was tall and handsome, with silver hair despite being only 30 years old. The silver was fashionable this season. He had paid surgeons to change his hair color. Geraint was the nephew of the planetary governor himself. His family ruled Necromunda. Every other noble house existed only because House Helmar allowed it. Lady Isadora, Geraint said with a bow. You look magnificent as always. Lord Geraint, she replied with a small smile. You honor me with your presence. This was how nobles spoke. Every word was calculated. Every gesture had meaning. Real emotions were hidden behind masks of politeness. Isadora had learned this dance since childhood. Geraint stepped inside and waved his hand. The servants left immediately. Even tongueless servants knew to obey a Helmar. I will escort you to the feast tonight, Geraint said. His voice was calm, but Isadora noticed something strange. His eyes kept moving to the window. His fingers tapped against his leg nervously. Is something wrong? She asked. Geraint looked at her for a long moment. Then he leaned close and whispered so quietly she could barely hear him. Someone will die tonight. Someone powerful. Stay close to me, and you will be safe. Before Isadora could ask what he meant, the door opened again. A servitor entered the room carrying a box of jewelry. Servitors were once human beings, transformed into mindless machines through surgery and programming. They felt nothing. They thought nothing. They simply obeyed. This servitor was called Unit 7734. It had served House Catalyst for 10 years. Isadora had never looked at it closely before. Why would she? It was just a machine, but today, something made her look. Perhaps it was Geraint's strange warning. Perhaps it was simple fate. The servitor's face was gray and lifeless, covered in metal plates and wires. Its eyes were dead glass lenses that saw everything but understood nothing. But on its neck, just below the jaw, Isadora saw something that made her blood freeze. A birthmark. Shaped like a crescent moon, her brother Caius had the same birthmark. Her brother who disappeared 10 years ago. Her brother who her family said had died in a shuttle accident. Her brother whose body was never found. The servitor placed the jewelry box on a table and turned to leave. For one single moment, less than a heartbeat, its dead glass eyes flickered. Something behind those lenses looked at Isadora. Something that recognized her, then it was gone. The servitor walked out of the room with mechanical steps, showing no emotion at all. Isadora could not breathe. Her hands were shaking. This was impossible. Her brother was dead. Everyone said so. Her parents had mourned him for a year, but that birthmark. Those eyes. Isadora. Geraint's voice seemed far away. Are you well? You look pale. She forced herself to smile. She had been trained since birth to hide her feelings. I am fine, she said. Just nervous about the feast. Geraint nodded and offered his arm. Shall we go? The other houses are already arriving. Isadora took his arm and walked toward the door. But her mind was racing. She needed answers. She needed to examine that servitor more closely. She needed to know the truth, what had really happened to her brother. And what dark secrets were the noble houses hiding. Tonight, at the feast of the Emperor's Ascension, she would find out, even if the truth destroyed everything she had ever known. The grand spire glowed with golden light as thousands of nobles gathered for the feast of the Emperor's Ascension. The great hall was larger than most cities in the underhive below. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, each one worth more than 1,000,000 lives. Statues of pure gold lined the walls, depicting heroes of House Helmar going back 10,000 years. Isadora walked through the crowd on Geraint's arm, but she could not focus on the celebration. Her eyes kept searching for Servitor Unit 7734. Every time she saw a servitor carrying drinks or food, her heart jumped. But none of them were the one she sought. Around her, the noble houses competed to display their wealth. House Grime had brought a captured Tau diplomat in chains, forcing the alien to serve them drinks as entertainment. The nobles laughed as the blue-skinned creature stumbled, its proud spirit broken by months of torture. House Olanti showcased a choir of 40 singers. But these were no ordinary musicians. Their brains had been modified so they could only sing. They could not think. They could not speak. They could only create beautiful sounds until their bodies gave out. Then they would be replaced with new singers. House Ranlow displayed a fountain that poured liquid gold. Not the color gold. Actual melted gold. It served no purpose except to show that they had so much wealth they could waste it. This was normal in the spire. This was how the elite lived. Isadora had grown up seeing such displays. She had never questioned them before, but now, after seeing that servitor's face, everything looked different. Every luxury suddenly seemed built on something terrible. Every smile seemed to hide a dark secret. She finally spotted Unit 7734 near the back of the hall, refilling glasses of wine for a group of elderly nobles. Her heart pounded as she excused herself from Geraint and walked toward the servitor. She pretended to examine a painting on the wall while secretly using her personal auspex. This small device could scan biological signatures from a distance. It was illegal for anyone outside the Mechanicum to own one, but noble houses did not follow such rules. The scan took only seconds. The results made her feel sick. Genetic match confirmed. The servitor's biological material was 97% identical to House Catalus bloodline. Specifically, it matched the records of Caius Catalus, declared dead 10 years ago. Her brother was alive. Or what remained of him was alive. He had been turned into a machine, a mindless slave serving the very family that had mourned his death. Who had done this? Why? These questions burned in Isadora's mind. At that moment, a commotion erupted near the main entrance. The crowd parted like water before a ship. Nobles who feared nothing suddenly looked terrified. A man walked through the crowd. He wore black armor covered in symbols that made Isadora's eyes hurt to look at. A red sash across his chest marked him as something that every person in the Imperium feared: Inquisitor. Inquisitors answered to no one except the Emperor himself. They could condemn entire planets to death. They could execute nobles without trial. They could do anything they believed necessary to protect humanity, and one was here. At a private noble feast. Uninvited. "Good evening," the Inquisitor said. His voice was calm and pleasant, which somehow made it more frightening. "I am Inquisitor Draven Mordecai of the Ordo Hereticus. Please, continue your celebration. I am simply here to enjoy the festivities." No one believed him. An Inquisitor never attended parties for fun. He was here because someone was under investigation. Someone in this room had committed crimes against the Imperium. The music started again, but quieter. The laughter returned, but forced. Everyone smiled while secretly wondering if they were the target. Isadora watched Geraint push through the crowd and disappear through a side door. His face had been pale with fear. What was he hiding? She started to follow him, but a hand touched her shoulder. She turned and found herself face to face with Inquisitor Mordecai. "Lady Catalus," he said quietly. "I believe you have been looking at a certain servitor very closely tonight. Unit 7734, I believe." Isadora's blood turned cold. He had been watching her. "I do not know what you mean," she said, trying to sound calm. Mordecai smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Your brother was a good man. He discovered something he should not have discovered. The noble houses could not allow him to speak. So they silenced him in the most permanent way possible while still keeping his body useful." Isadora wanted to run. She wanted to scream. But she stood frozen. "If you want to know the truth," Mordecai continued, "meet me at midnight in the Forbidden Gallery. Come alone. Tell no one." He walked away before she could respond, disappearing into the crowd as if he had never been there. Isadora looked around the grand hall. The nobles laughed and danced. The wine flowed endlessly. The gold sparkled under the lights, but she could no longer see beauty here. She could only see lies. Her brother had discovered something. Something so dangerous that the noble houses had turned him into a servitor rather than simply kill him. Something that an Inquisitor was now investigating 10 years later. What secret was worth destroying a man's mind to protect? Midnight was 3 hours away. Isadora would be in that gallery, and whatever truth waited there, she would face it, even if it meant her own destruction.